Hello viewers, my name is Dr. Ajay, Associate Professor from the Department of ECE, IIR Engineering College, Hyderabad. So today we are going to discuss one of the basic antenna, that is Yagi-Uda antenna. So today's topic which we are going to discuss in this session is Yagi-Uda antenna. So before going into the Yagi-Uda antenna, many antennas in our course have been designed based upon with respect to some frequency. So here, there are some international standard of frequency ranges which have been specified by our IEEE and IITE and different technical societies. They have formed different ranges of frequency for one particular range. So here, this is the radio frequency spectrum. The total radio frequency spectrum, it is divided into different frequencies and wavelengths. So these are fixed frequencies which we use the abbreviation as VLF, LF for low frequency, MF for medium frequency, HF for high frequency, VHF for very high frequency, SHF for super high frequency, and UHF for ultra high frequency, and EHF for extremely high frequency. So these are the different frequency ranges which have been fixed and given some abbreviation as VLF, LF, MF, HF, and VHF. See here, if you carefully observe here, every abbreviation, the frequency range is different. That means if you take VLF, that is a very low frequency. Its frequency ranges between 3 kHz to only 30 kHz. 3 kHz to only 30 kHz. And its wavelength, it is given by 100 km to 10 km. The very low frequency range is 3 kHz to 30 kHz. And the wavelength is 100 km to 10 km. And similarly, there is another abbreviation which is known as LF, low frequency. So the low frequency range comes under 30 kHz to 300 kHz. 30 kHz to 300 kHz. And the wavelength, it is given by 10 km to 1 km. The wavelength, it is given by 10 km to 1 km. And the third one is the third frequency range which we have been abbreviated. It is known as the designation MF, medium frequency. The abbreviation is MF, which is designated as medium frequency. And here, this frequency range, it ranges between 300 kHz to 3 MHz. 300 kHz to 3 MHz. And its wavelength is, it is 1 km to 100 meters. Its wavelength is, it is 1 km to 100 meters. And the another abbreviation is HF. The HF, the designation is, it is given by high frequency. It is given by high frequency, and its frequency range, it ranges between 3 MHz to 30 MHz. It ranges between 3 MHz to 30 MHz. And its wavelength is given by 100 meters to 10 meters. Its wavelength is given by 100 meters to 10 meters. And the next abbreviation is VHF, which is known as very high frequency. Its frequencies range between 30 MHz to 300 MHz. 30 MHz to 300 MHz. And its wavelength ranges between 10 meters to 1 meter. Similarly, the abbreviation UHF, the designation is given by ultra high frequency. For the abbreviation UHF, the designation is, its full form is ultra high frequency, where its frequency ranges between 300 MHz to 3 GHz. 300 MHz to 3 GHz. And its wavelength is given by 1 meter to 100 millimeters. 1 meter to 100 millimeters. And the another abbreviation is SHF. Whose designation is in the full form super high frequency. That is, the abbreviation for SHF is super high frequency. Its frequency ranges between 3 GHz to 30 GHz. Its frequency ranges between 3 GHz to 30 GHz. And its wavelength ranges between 100 mm to 10 mm. Its wavelength ranges between 10 mm to 100 mm to 10 mm. And the last frequency and the last abbreviation, which is a designation, which is abbreviated as EHF. Its full form is extremely high frequency. Extremely high frequency. So its frequency ranges is between 30 gigahertz to 300 gigahertz. 30 gigahertz to 300 gigahertz, and its wavelength is given by 10 mm to 1 mm. Its wavelength is given by 10 mm to 1 mm. So these are the different frequency ranges. These are fixed worldwide. These frequency ranges and the abbreviations cannot be modified. So all these abbreviations you need to use as it is. That is VLF, LF, MF, HF, VHF, UHF, SHF, and EHF. If anyone asks you what is the frequency range of high frequency, so it is fixed as 3 MHz to 30 MHz. So 3 MHz to 30 MHz comes under which designation? It comes under high frequency. So you need to remember this. If someone asks you 3 GHz to 30 GHz, so if someone asks you a frequency range of, suppose it is 15 GHz, if there is a 15 GHz of operating frequency, so this 15 GHz comes under which abbreviation? So this 15 GHz comes under super high frequency. 15 GHz comes under super high frequency. Suppose for example, if the frequency range, it lies between 15 megahertz. The frequency range, it lies between 15 megahertz. So what is the abbreviation for 15 megahertz? What is the designation given for 15 megahertz? It is high frequency. So you need to remember that 15 megahertz, it is nothing but the high frequency. So in most of the textbooks, these abbreviations are, these abbreviations and the designations and the frequency ranges and wavelengths are common. And we need to remember all these frequencies and the wavelengths. So if you want to calculate the wavelength, if the frequency is given, we need to calculate by the formula C is equal to F lambda. By the formula C is equal to F lambda, you can get the value of lambda is equal to C by F. C by F. So where C is the velocity of the electromagnetic wave, which is equivalent to the velocity of the light. So this is given by 3 into 10 power 8. This is given by 3 into 10 power 8 by the given frequency range. By the given frequency range. If the frequency is given as 30 megahertz, then what will be the wavelength? If the frequency is given as 30 megahertz, what will be the wavelength? So this is 30 into 10 power 6. 30 into 10 power 6. So here 3 ones, 3 tens. So 10 power 7, 10 power 7 get cancelled. This is equal to 10. So 10 meters. 10 meters is the lambda. That is the wavelength is calculated as lambda is equal to 10 meters. So for a frequency of 30 megahertz, the value of lambda is 10 meters. The value of lambda is 10 meters. Here, in our course, that is antennas, waves and propagation, every antenna, whatever the antennas designed by the designers, those antennas come under any of these frequency ranges. They work and operate only along any of these frequency ranges only. So there are many types of antennas in our course, like Yagi-Uda antenna and the parabolic reflector antenna, the microstrip antenna, the loop antenna, the lens antenna. So all these antennas have a specific range of, they work only in the specific range of frequency only. Right? So every antenna has some limitation based upon the operating frequency. That means an antenna which works, so there are some antennas which works only in the range of very low frequency only. And that antenna will not work in the ultra high frequency range. Right? So the antenna which is used in the antenna which works only in the very low frequency range, it may not work at ultra high frequencies. So there are a set of antennas which work under ultra high frequencies. And there are a group of antennas which work only under high frequency ranges only. And there are some other antennas which work under only very low frequency ranges only. So depending upon our application, we need to select the type of the antenna and the frequency range. So if we want to give input to the antenna as in the range of 300 MHz to 3 GHz, right? So you need to select some other different antenna which is suitable in this range only. So which is suitable in this range only, you need to select that type of antenna. Suppose if you take a waveguide, antenna, these waveguides antenna will work in the very high frequency only. That is 30 megahertz to 300 megahertz and 300 megahertz to 3 gigahertz. So these waveguides will work in the VHF range and the UHF range, very high frequency range and the ultra high frequency range. So these waveguides will not work in the very low frequency range, right? So waveguides which work, waveguides are known as transmission lines to carry the electromagnetic waves. So these waveguides which are operating in these two ranges, will not work effectively in the very low frequency range, So here, in our course, there are different types of antennas which we are going to study, which we are going to see in every session one antenna. So today, the basic antenna which we are going to discuss is Yagi-Uda antenna. Yagi-Uda antenna. So we are going to discuss the basic antenna, Yagi-Uda antenna. Here you can see here. Before going to the antenna, Yagi-Uda antenna. So Yagi and Uda are the names of two scientists. So these two scientists have invented a new type of antenna and they specified their name only for that antenna. So Yagi and Uda are two different scientists who invented one type of antenna and they have given the name, their names only, their name itself has given the name of the antenna as Yagi-Uda antenna. So before going into the topic of Yagi-Uda antenna, we shall see some basics. Of an antenna element. So here, an antenna is also known as an element. The other name given for an antenna is also known as an element. Right? So here, a parasitic element is an element which depends on others' feeds. That means we know that there are two types of transducers. We know that there are two types of elements. One is active element. The other one is passive element. So either active network or passive network. So we can also call as active element or passive element. So active device and passive device. So what is the difference between the active device and the passive device? A device which generates its signal by itself. We call it as an active signal. A device which cannot generate its own signal, but depends on other devices for getting the input signal. Those type of devices, we call it as a passive device. A device which depends, a device where the input signal is not given directly. But it will capture the input signal from the other device. It will get the signal from the other device. Hence, that element or that device, we call it as a passive device. So here, suppose if there is a conductor here, if we are given some input here, to the conductor here, we are giving input by means of a transmission line. This is known as a transmission line. For this transmission line and for this conductor, these both are connected by a balanced transmission line. This transmission line is giving some signal to the conductor. Hence, as this is giving some signal to the conductor, this is known as feeding. Or feeding method. Here, if you take another conductor which is placed parallel to this conductor. This is A conductor and this is B conductor. You place conductor B parallel to A conductor. Here we are not applying any signal to the conductor B. Here, as we give some current, as we give some input current to the conductor A, some flux is generated. So as this flux will also get induced inside the conductor B also. As a flux is generated along the rope in a perpendicular direction in conductor A, this flux also induces some amount of magnetic field to the conductor inside the conductor B. Right? Hence, some electric field also gets generated to the conductor B. Hence, some electric field also gets induced into the conductor B. So you can observe here, we are not giving any signal directly to the B. To the conductor B, we are not giving any signal to the conductor B. But B is getting the signal from conductor A. But the conductor B, it is getting the signal. It is getting the signal, or it is getting some amount of current is captured by the signal B from the A. This is an indirect method. Hence, we call this conductor B as a passive conductor or a passive element. As it is not getting directly the signal through one transmission line, it is getting the signal indirectly from the other element. It is getting the signal indirectly from the other element. Hence, conductor B can be regarded as a parasitic conductor or a parasitic element. So, it is not, we are not feeding here. We are not feeding the conductor B. We are not feeding conductor B. Here you can observe here only we are feeding conductor A only. So if this is a conductor A and if this is a conductor B, we are feeding only the conductor A only. So from here the some amount of flux is induced in the B as B is very closer to A. As the conductor B is very closer to A, some flux is induced inside the conductor B. That means we are not giving the input supply. We are not giving the input supply directly. We are not giving the input signal directly to the B. That is, indirectly we can say that B is depending on A. The conductor B, it is depending on A. That means the amount of signal given to the A is very important. The amount of signal given to the A is very important. How much amount of current you increase, that much amount of flux is induced inside the conductor B. That much amount of magnetic field is induced inside the conductor B. So as we are not feeding directly, this element B is known as a parasitic element. Right? This is known as a parasitic element. So it does not have its own feed. It does not have its own feed. Hence, in this type of arrays, we employ such elements which help in increasing the radiation indirectly. Right? So here we need not give the supply to all the terminals in an array. So what is an array? An array is nothing but a group of elements arranged in parallel. If this is an antenna A and this is an antenna B and this is an antenna C and this is antenna D. So here these A, B, C, D are known as 4 different antennas, or we can also name it as 4 elements. These 4 elements are aligned in parallel. As you increase the number of elements, the directivity can be increased to a larger extent. And here, all these elements which are aligned in parallel, we call it as an array. Right? So here, to increase the radiation indirectly, what we are going to do here is, we are going to place all the elements in parallel. If you want to increase the radiation efficiency of the antenna, if you want to increase the radiation efficiency and the directivity of the antenna, so what we need to do is, you need to place the elements. Elements or antennas are grouped together and are aligned and are arranged in parallel with each other with equal spacing. These parasitic elements are not directly connected to the feed. You can see here, these parasitic elements cannot be directly connected to the feed. That means feeding means giving the input signal directly. Is known as feeding. So whatever the parasitic elements we are going to use for our in the design of antenna, those parasitic elements we are not giving any input signal directly. If you are using n number of elements here, only for one element, 2, 3, 4 and 5, there are 5 elements here. Only for one element you are going to feed the antenna. You are going to give the input signal. So giving the input signal to any antenna is known as feeding. So we are going to feed only the antenna 1, and we are not going to feed the antennas of 2, 3 and 4 and 5. So these parasitic elements 2, 3, 4, 5 are known as the parasitic elements. These parasitic elements will not be given any supply. we are not going to do any supply. We are not going to feed these 2, 3, 4, 5 elements, right? So this is known as a parasitic element. So why we are discussing the parasitic elements? So scientists, Yagi-Uda scientists, these both scientists have designed their antenna based upon the concept of parasitic elements only, right? So the scientists, both the scientists Yagi and Uda have designed an antenna so based upon the concept of the parasitic elements only. The arrays are used at frequencies ranging from 2 MHz to several GHz. Right? So these are the arrays in order to increase the directivity, or in order to increase the forward gain in one particular direction. What we are going to use is, you are using the concept of parasitic elements. These are arranged, all these parasitic elements are arranged in the form of arrays. And these arrays, the operating frequency, it ranges from 2 MHz to several GHz. It may be 30 GHz, it may be 20 GHz, or 2 MHz to 30 GHz also, we can use the array. And this parasitic element concept, it is mainly especially used for increasing the directivity. That means the directivity can be increased to a larger extent, and the forward gain can be increased with a unidirectional property. That means in one particular direction, the directivity can be increased to a larger extent. If you want to increase the directivity, to a larger extent, right? So the best method used is using the concept of parasitic elements only. You can increase the high directivity in one particular direction. And more parasitic elements means more gain. The most common example of this type of array is Yagi-Uda antenna. So the most common example for these parasitic elements, one of the common example for these parasitic elements is, it is an Yagi-Uda antenna. We'll discuss about this Yagi-Uda antenna. So Yagi and Uda are both different two names of the scientists, and these two scientists have designed an antenna, a high gain antenna, and specified the name of the antenna as Yagi-Uda antenna only. They specified the name itself and have given the name as Yagi-Uda antenna. So initially they have designed an antenna with 2 elements only. And later, after many years, they have increased the number of elements, and they have proved that the gain of the antenna and the directivity of the antenna can be increased by increasing the number of the elements. So here, basically, this Yagi-Uda antenna, it consists of a driven element, a reflector, and one or more directors. So initially in the year 1940, they have invented this antenna with only 3 elements. So out of these 3 elements, the first one is the driven element, the second one is the reflector, the third one is the director. So the first one is the driven element, the second one is the reflector, and the third one is the director. So initially these scientists in the year 1940, they designed only with 3 elements only. Here, basically, it is this antenna design, it is also known as one type of array. Why? Because if there are more than 2 elements, if there is more than one element, it is known as an array. So here there are 3 elements. Here there are totally 3 elements. These 3 elements have been arranged in parallel with each other. Hence, this can be treated as an Yagi-Uda array also. So not only it can be named as Yagi-Uda antenna, we can also name it as Yagi-Uda array. Why? Because there are more than 2 number of elements. There are 3 elements arranged in parallel. The driven element, it is a resonant half-wave dipole made of a metallic rod. So here basically this driven element, that means whichever we are going to feed the element, the basic element, we call it as a driven element. This is the main source of giving the radiation. The driven element, it is an element where the input signal is given, where we are giving the feeding, to the element. That element we call it as a driven element. To this driven element, generally which we use in the Yagi-Uda antenna is, it is a half-wave dipole antenna where L is equal to lambda by 2. That means the length of the half-wave dipole antenna is generally lambda by 2. And this type of antenna is used as a driven element initially. Initially, when Yagi and Yuda started their research and they have invented this Yagi antenna, they took a half-wave dipole antenna for their experimental research. That means for the length of the half-wave dipole antenna is L is equal to lambda by 2. They have taken this as, they have considered this as a driven element where the input signal is given only to the driven element only. And after, for this driven element, if you take this as a driven element, for this driven element, if this is a driven element, for this driven element, they have placed one reflector. They have placed one reflector adjacent to the driven element. That means left to the left portion of the driven element, they have placed one reflector whose length is greater than the length of the driven element. Whose length is greater than the length of the driven element. And here, one or more directors they have placed adjacent to the half-wave dipole antenna. They have placed one director which is right side to the half-wave dipole antenna, and whose length is less than that of a driven element. Whose length is less than that of a driven element. So this is the basic design of the Yagi-Uda antenna. So basically, they have selected driven element size is very less, and the reflector size is more than the driven element. The reflector size is more than the driven element, and the director size it is less than the half-wave dipole antenna. So this is the basic design of the Yagi-Uda antenna. So this is the basic, in the display you can see here. This is a folded dipole antenna. So not only we can use a half-wave dipole antenna, we can also use a folded dipole antenna as the driven element. So here, the other elements, this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. These are 6 elements and this is the 7th element. So here totally there are 7 elements in an array. All are placed in parallel and with equal spacing. So you can observe here the spacing between 1 and 2, the spacing between 2 and 3, the spacing between 3 and 4 is same. So all these elements which are arranged in parallel adjacent to the folded dipole antenna, all these elements which are arranged in parallel adjacent to the driven element, we call it as parasitic elements. That means all these parasitic elements are continuous and are arranged in parallel to the driven element and are all in the same line of sight. So all are in the same line of sight. That means all are in the same path. And all the elements are placed in parallel to each other and also closer to each other. So you can observe here in the diagram, this is a driven element. So this is the driven element where the input signal is given. So for this driven element only, we are going to feed it. We are going to feed the driven element. And you can observe here, the size of the reflector is very high. The size of the reflector, that is the length of the reflector is very high than the length of the driven element. If the length is here, it is taken as 1 meter, and this length of the driven element, it is around 0.95 meters. Right? So as you observe in the display that the Yagi-Uda antenna, here all the directors' size are drastically decreasing from one to the other. Right? So if the size of the driven element is 1 meter, then the size of the director is 0.9 meters. Let us say. And the size of the next director it is 0.8 meters. And the size of the next director it is 0.7 meters. That means successively all the elements which are arranged in parallel, their lengths have been decreased with respect to the length of the driven element. With respect to the length of the driven element, all the lengths of the elements which are arranged in parallel in an array, all the lengths have been decreased. So here, let us see the working. Let us see the working of the Yagi-Uda antenna. So what is the basic working of the Yagi-Uda antenna? Here, this is a 3-element array which is known as a reflector, active and director. So reflector and active. Active means the driven element. The active element is where we give the input signal. It is known as the driven element or the active element. So this can be also be the other name for a Yagi-Uda antenna is it is a beam antenna. So other name for the beam Yagi-Uda antenna is it is a beam antenna. It has a unidirectional beam of the moderate directivity with lightweight, low cost, and simplicity in design. Right, so these are the basic characteristics of the Yagi-Uda antenna. Unidirectional, that means it will propagate the electromagnetic waves in only one particular direction, but not in bidirectional. This is bidirectional, and this is unidirectional radiation pattern. That means it is going to direct the beam in only to one particular direction only. Here, if you increase the number of, by changing the spacing between the elements and by changing the bandwidth, you can increase and decrease the directivity. Right? So you can, if you want to increase the directivity, you can increase the number of elements. Right? You can also, if you want to change the radiation pattern from broader to narrow or from narrow to broader, you can increase or decrease the spacing. You can increase or decrease in the spacing between the elements. So by increasing or decreasing the spacing between the elements, you can make the radiation pattern either broader or narrow in size. Also, by increasing the number of elements in an array, you can also increase the directivity. You can also reduce the directivity. Right? So the bandwidth increases between 2% when the space between the elements ranges between 0.1 lambda to 0.15 lambda. That means the elements, the spacing between the elements are arranged in the range of 0.1 lambda, in the range of 0.11 lambda, in the range of 0.13 lambda, like this. Right? So if the spacing between the elements, it ranges between 0.1 lambda to 0.15 lambda, then the bandwidth will be increased by 2%. Then the bandwidth of the antenna can be increased by 2%. So overall, the Yagi-Uda antenna, it provides a gain of 8 dB and a front to back ratio of 20 dB. It provides a gain of 8 dB and a front to back ratio of 20 dB. So these are the general characteristics of the Yagi-Uda antenna. So another characteristic of Yagi-Uda antenna is it is also known as a super directive antenna or a super gain antenna. Why it is known as a super directive antenna? Why? Because the Yagi-Uda antenna, if you see here, this is the input terminals, this is the driven element, and this is the reflector. From here, the directivity can be increased to one particular direction only. That means it is directing the signal to one particular direction. Hence, we can also name it as the super directive antenna or super gain antenna. Since the system results a high gain, we can also refer it as a super gain antenna. So here, the maximum directive can be increased to a larger extent by keeping 40 elements in parallel to each other. As we increase the number of directors, greater directivity can be achieved. As increase the number of elements from 10 to 15 or 15 to 20 or 40 elements, the greater directivity can be achieved. So these arrays can be stacked to increase the directivity. So all the elements are arranged in parallel to increase the directivity. So Yagi is essentially a fixed frequency device. It is a fixed frequency device which in most of the cases it is used for receiving the signal only. So frequency sensitivity and bandwidth of about 3% is achievable. So it is very sensitive to frequency, and bandwidth we cannot achieve more than 3%. Up to only 3% bandwidth only can be achieved for this type of Yagi-Uda antenna. So bandwidth will be changing if the direction of the Yagi-Uda antenna changes. That means if due to the atmospheric conditions, suppose if there is heavy rainfall, then the direction of this antenna will be slightly changing. When the direction will be slightly changing, the frequency will be changing. The bandwidth will be changing. Hence the directivity is lost. Hence the directivity in receiving the signal is lost. So this is the basic design of the Yagi-Uda antenna. So if you want to design an Yagi-Uda antenna, basically 3 elements are required. So one is the reflector antenna. This is the reflector antenna, and this is the driven element, and this is the director, and this is the director antenna. So the length of the reflector, it is fixed as 0.55 lambda. The length of the driven element, it is taken as 0.5 lambda, and the length of the director, it is taken as 0.45 lambda. You can observe here the length of the reflector is more, the length of the driven element is very less, and also the length of the director is also very less than the driven element. So this is the design of the Yagi-Uda antenna, and the spacing between these two elements is taken as 0.1 lambda. the spacing between the reflector and the driven element, it is taken as 0.1 lambda. So if you want to design an antenna, IU antenna with basically 3 elements, so you need to remember this. The length is taken as 0.55 lambda, and these specifications are mandatory. You need to remember, that is, the length of the director is 0.45 lambda. And if you want to place another director adjacent to this, the length of this fourth one, this is 1, this is 2, and this is 3. The length of the fourth director must be less than, this 4 must be less than 3. The length of the fourth must be less than the length of the third one. That means it may be around 0.40 lambda. It may be around 0.40 lambda. So you can observe in the display that the radiation pattern is it is unidirectional. So how this antenna will work? So we will see now how this antenna will work. See here, if this is a dipole antenna, for this dipole antenna, the radiation pattern will be like this. It is in the form of 8. Now, if you take an half-wave dipole antenna, the radiation pattern will be bidirectional. It will be maximum in both the directions. Whenever you place a reflector here, if you place a reflector here, if this is 1 and if this is 2, if you place a reflector here, the radiation pattern which is observed on the left side of second element, that is the reflector, it will be moved to the in a direction forward to the in a direction towards the element 1. You can see here, if this is 1, so whenever you place a reflector element, the radiation pattern will be changing here. The radiation pattern is changed here like this. Again, if you place a director, if you place a director 3, which is adjacent to the half-wave dipole antenna 1. Now the radiation pattern which is on the left-hand side of the reflector element 2, that is driven towards the driven element. You can see here the radiation pattern after placing the director, it will be like this. That means, as you place number of directors, as you increase the number of directors to the right side of the half-wave dipole antenna, to the right side of the driven element, we can observe here the radiation pattern is moving away from the driven element. That means here, if you observe here, if this is the driven element 1, and if you place a reflector here, this reflector makes as the length of the reflector is more than the length of the driven element, it lacks the induced voltage. And you can see here, as the length of the director is less than the length of the driven element, it leads the induced voltage. That means here, what is the action taken by the directors here? You can see here, if this is a dipole antenna, these directors will make the radiation pattern to move away from the driven element. These directors will add all the fields. These directors will add all the fields produced by the half-wave dipole antenna in a direction away from the half-wave dipole antenna. And what is this reflector doing here? You can see here, this is the driven element. If this is the reflector here, this reflector is moving the field observed by the reflector in a direction towards the driven element. The radiation pattern is pushed towards the half-wave dipole antenna, towards the driven element. This reflector is pushing the radiation pattern. That means the field observed by the reflector are directed towards the driven element, In the same way, if these are the directors, these directors are adding all the fields produced by the driven element in a direction away from the driven element. So here, this is how all the radiation pattern is pushed from this direction to the another direction. That means a half-wave dipole antenna, it produces a 8 directional radiation pattern. If you place one reflector as 2 here, this radiation is pushed in a direction towards the driven element. In a direction towards the driven element. If you place a director here, this radiation pattern is towards is pushed away from the driven element. That means the fields produced by the driven element are being absorbed by the 3 and 4 and 5 elements, and they will direct the radiation pattern in a direction away from the driven element. So this is how the Yagi-Uda antenna will work. So if you want to design an Yagi-Uda antenna, so these are the basic design features. That means if you want to design, first you need to know the length of the driven element. If you want to know the length of the driven element, you should know the length of the operating frequency. That means the operating frequency range of the antenna must be known. Right? Suppose if our antenna is lambda by 2 antenna, if our antenna is a half wave dipole antenna, then the length is taken as lambda by 2. Right? Then the length is taken as lambda by 2. So generally length is equal to lambda by 2. And what is lambda? C is equal to F lambda. We know that C is equal to F lambda. And lambda is equal to C by F. And lambda is equal to C by F, which is equal to 3 into 10 power 8 by F. 3 into 10 power 8 by F. This is the value of lambda. And if we want to find out the length of the half wave dipole antenna, so length is equal to lambda by 2. So L is equal to lambda. What is lambda value? 3 into 10 power 8 by F. So 3 into 10 power 8 by F by 2. So 2 ones, 2 into 1.5. You will get 150 by F megahertz per meter. So this is the equation only when the driven element is taken as a half wave dipole antenna. So when the driven element is taken as half wave dipole antenna, then only the length of the driven element is taken as L is equal to 150 by F megahertz. So generally, if you want to design a practical Yagi-Uda antenna, so these are the basic design characteristics which you need to the electrical characteristics of the antenna material. So practical antenna, if you want to design a dipole antenna, the length must be fixed as 143 by F meters. Right? So it's practically impossible to design L is equal to 150 by F. There are some losses occurring for this length. At length L is equal to 150 by F, there are some radiation losses happening. Hence, this Yagi-Uda antenna I have modified the length of the dipole as 143 by F megahertz. And for reflector, the length is taken as 152 by F megahertz. And the first director, it is taken as 137 F megahertz. That means, if this is the length of the reflector, this is the length of the driven element, this is the main driven element, this is the director 1, and this is the director 2, and this is the director 3. That means, here the length of the reflector is taken as 152 by F megahertz. The length of the dipole antenna is taken as L is equal to 143 by F megahertz. The length of the first director is taken as 137 by F megahertz. So these are the design parameters. We need to remember all these things. And the spacing between the reflector and the director. So if this is the driven element and if this is the reflector, the spacing must be equivalent to 0.25 lambda or 75 by F lambda. And the spacing between the first director and the driven element, it is taken as 40 by F megahertz. And the spacing between the director 1 and the director 2. So D stands for director. So the director 1, director 2 is 38 by F megahertz. It is taken as 38 by F megahertz. So whenever you want to design an Yagi antenna, so you need to follow these specifications. That means the length of the antenna must be 143. The length of the driven element must be 143 by F. And the length of the reflector antenna must be greater than 143. Greater than 143. That is 147. That is 152 by F megahertz. And the length of the director must be 137. And the length of the next director must be 133. And the length of the next director is 130 by F megahertz. The spacing is 0.25 lambda between the reflector and the director. And the spacing between the driven element and the driven element and the dipole is 0.13 lambda. And the spacing between the directors it is given as 38 by F megahertz per meter. So if you want to increase the number of directors, the spacing between the length of the directors are reduced by a percentage of 2.5%. By a percentage of 2.5%. That means if the length of this director is 7 meters, the length of the next director must be the length of suppose if you say here, the length of the director is 7.5 meters. The length of the next director must be 5 meters. The length of the next director must be 2.5 meters. So in this way, you need to design the antenna. That means the spacing must be constant. The spacing must be constant. So the spacing, the length of the adjacent directors have to reduce by percentage of 2.5%. The subsequent directors, the length must be reduced by 2.5%. So these are the design characteristics of the Yagi-Uda antenna. So you need to remember all these characteristics. That is, what must be the first of all, you need to know the operating frequency of the Yagi-Uda antenna. So let us conclude the Yagi-Uda antenna. So if you want to design an Yagi-Uda antenna, first you need to remember three things. One is a Yagi-Uda antenna consists of three elements. One is the reflector, the other one is the driven element, the other one is the director. So these are three basic elements which are mandatory for designing of a Yagi-Uda antenna. Only when the question is asked as if you want to design an antenna as a 6-element array, if you want to design an Yagi antenna for 6 elements, then 3 more directors are required. That means 3 more elements adjacent to the driven element are required. That means if you want to design a 6-element array, if you want to design an Yagi antenna of 6 elements, so what are the things we need? First one is reflector. The second one is the driven element, and the third one is, this is the input supply given here, and the third one is director 1, and this is D2, director 2, and this is D3, and this is D4. That means a 6-element array. If you want to design a 6-element array, we need 4 directors. We need 4 directors and 1 driven element, and the other one is reflector. Right? So, and the spacing between the elements must be constant. The spacing between the elements must be constant. The spacing is 0.25 lambda between the reflector and the driven element. The spacing is 0.13 lambda, has to be maintained constant between the directors. Right? So this is the basic design. This is the basic design of the antenna. This is the basic design of the antenna. So to design antenna, so you need to remember these things: 0.75 by f megahertz, 40 by f megahertz, 38 by f megahertz. The spacing between all the directors. The length of the dipole is 143 by f megahertz. On the reflector is f is equal to 152 by f megahertz. And the last one is the first director L is equal to 137 by f megahertz. So whenever you want to design an antenna, you need to know the length of the elements, and also the operating frequency which we want to give. That means whether you are applying a 3 megahertz operating frequency or 30 megahertz operating frequency, you need to know. If you know the operating frequency rate, then you can find out the value of lambda. If you know the operating frequency, then you can know the value of lambda. If you know the value of lambda, then you can easily know the length of the driven element. You can easily find out the length of the driven element. We shall end the session now. We shall discuss some more antennas in the next session. Okay. Thank you.
Like, share and subscribe. Hit the bell icon for more updates.